Have you ever stood at the edge of your greatest desire, feeling it so close you could almost touch it, yet wondering why it has not yet appeared in your hands? Have you ever awakened in the quiet hours of the morning with a knowing deep within your spirit that something magnificent is preparing itself for you, something your logical mind cannot yet see but your heart already recognizes as yours? What if I told you that the very fact you are listening to these words right now is evidence that your breakthrough has already been set in motion, that the infinite intelligence within you has drawn you to this exact moment because you are ready to receive a truth that will forever change the way you approach abundance, prosperity, and the fulfillment of every dream resting within your soul? This is not coincidence. There are no accidents in the kingdom of mind. You are here because something within you called out, and the universe answered. You are here because the same power that spins the galaxies and commands the tides has been preparing you for a revelation that arrives not a moment too soon and not a moment too late, but precisely when you are ready to receive it. What you are about to hear is not theory. It is living law. It is the same principle that has lifted countless souls from the valley of limitation into the mountaintop of infinite possibility. It is the same truth that has taken men and women from the edge of despair and planted them firmly in the garden of their answered prayers. And it is available to you right now, in this very moment, if you will open your mind and let these words find their home within your subconscious depths. Before we begin this sacred journey together, I invite you to take one small action that will plant a seed of faith in your own heart. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, and press the notification bell so that each time wisdom calls, you will be ready to receive it. Press the like button now, not merely as a gesture, but as an act of faith, a declaration that you believe the breakthrough you seek is on its way. And in the comments below, write these words: "My breakthrough is here, and I receive it now." Let this be your testimony, your proclamation to the infinite, that you are ready. You are willing. You are open. And so it shall be. Now, let us begin. There comes a moment in every person's life when the soul grows weary of waiting, when the heart whispers in the stillness of the night, "How much longer must I carry this burden of lack? How many more days must I walk through this valley before I reach the summit I know belongs to me?" And in that sacred moment of questioning, when the conscious mind has exhausted its reasoning and the intellect has surrendered its endless calculations, something profound begins to stir within the depths of being. It is in this place of surrender, this holy ground of letting go, that the infinite intelligence dwelling within you begins to move with a power that no obstacle can withstand. You have been told your entire life that breakthrough comes through struggle. You have been conditioned to believe that abundance is the reward of exhausting effort, that prosperity is purchased only through sacrifice and suffering. And while there is indeed a place for dedicated action and persistent commitment, the deepest truth of manifestation reveals something far more elegant, far more powerful, far more aligned with the very nature of creation itself. Your breakthrough does not come to you because you have worked hard enough to deserve it. Your breakthrough comes to you because you have aligned your inner state with the reality of its existence. You have not earned your good. You have recognized it. You have not created your abundance through force. You have allowed it through faith. Consider for a moment the words written thousands of years ago in the book of Proverbs, chapter 23, verse 7, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." These words contain the entire science of mind, the complete philosophy of manifestation, the total law of prosperity compressed into a single sentence. What you hold to be true in the depths of your feeling nature is what you become. What you accept in the secret chamber of your subconscious mind is what appears as the conditions of your life. Your outer world is not separate from your inner world. It is its reflection. It is its expression. It is its inevitable manifestation. And here is where most seekers lose their way. They attempt to change the reflection without changing the image that casts it. They rearrange circumstances while leaving the consciousness that created those circumstances completely untouched. They pray for wealth while holding in their hearts the conviction of poverty. They affirm abundance while feeling in their bones the reality of lack. And they wonder why their affirmations seem empty, why their prayers seem unanswered, why their efforts produce so little fruit. The answer is simple, though its implications are profound. The subconscious mind does not respond to words. It responds to feeling. It does not hear what you say. It hears what you mean. It does not record your hopes. It records your expectations. There was a man I shall call Thomas, who spent 15 years building a business that never quite succeeded. Every quarter brought the same disappointment. Every year ended with the same shortage. He worked harder than anyone he knew, arriving before dawn and departing long after sunset, yet the results remained stubbornly the same. He consulted experts. He changed strategies. He restructured his operations countless times. But nothing shifted the fundamental reality of perpetual struggle. One evening, exhausted and near despair, Thomas sat alone in his empty office and asked a question that would change everything. He did not ask how he could work harder. He did not ask what new strategy might save him. He asked instead, what do I really believe about myself and money? What is the truth I hold in my heart when no one is watching? And in the silence that followed, an honest answer arose from the depths of his being. He realized that beneath all his efforts, beneath all his positive affirmations, beneath all his vision boards and goal sheets, he carried a conviction planted in childhood that money was scarce, that wealth was for others, that people like him always struggled. He had been working against himself for 15 years, his conscious efforts endlessly cancelled by his subconscious conviction. That night, Thomas did not set new goals. He did not devise new strategies. Instead, he began a different kind of work, the inner work of transforming his fundamental belief about prosperity. He began to speak to his own subconscious mind each night before sleep, not with desperate pleading but with calm authority. He would say quietly to himself, I am now establishing a new belief within my deeper mind. Wealth flows to me naturally and easily. I am a person to whom prosperity comes as naturally as breathing. This is the truth of my being, and I accept it completely. He did not demand results. He did not set deadlines. He simply planted the seed and trusted the Lord to bring forth the harvest. Within 3 months, Thomas received a phone call from a company he had briefly dealt with years before. They were looking for a supplier with exactly his capabilities. The contract they offered was larger than all his previous years combined. Within 18 months, his struggling enterprise had transformed into a thriving operation, and within 5 years, he had achieved a level of success he had never permitted himself to imagine. But Thomas understood something that many miss. The outer change was not the real change. The outer change was merely the reflection of the real change, which had occurred silently, invisibly, within the depths of his own consciousness. He had changed his belief, and his world had no choice but to follow. This is the principle that stands at the foundation of all lasting transformation. You cannot permanently change conditions while leaving consciousness unchanged. You may force temporary improvements through sheer will and effort, but unless the underlying pattern shifts, the old conditions will return in new forms. This is why so many people who win fortunes lose them again so quickly. This is why so many who achieve success find themselves somehow sabotaging it. The outer achievement had no inner foundation. The building was constructed on sand instead of rock. But when you change the pattern within, when you establish a new conviction in the subconscious mind, you create an unshakable foundation that supports whatever structure you choose to build upon it. Circumstances shift naturally. Opportunities appear effortlessly. The right people, the right situations, the right timing all converge as if orchestrated by an invisible hand. And indeed, they are orchestrated by an invisible hand, the hand of infinite intelligence operating through the medium of your own subconscious mind. The scripture tells us in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 11, verse 24, Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Notice carefully the sequence of this instruction. You are not told to believe after you receive. You are not told to have faith once the evidence appears. You are told to believe that you receive at the moment of asking, before any physical manifestation, before any sensory evidence, before any logical reason to believe. This is the great secret. This is the point where most seekers turn back because it seems too simple, too illogical, too contrary to everything the world has taught them. And yet this is precisely the point where breakthrough becomes inevitable. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, when you enter into the inner state of already having received what you desire, you are not practicing self-deception. You are practicing the highest form of spiritual science. You are aligning your consciousness with a truth that exists on a level beyond physical observation. You are claiming your inheritance before the check arrives because you know with absolute certainty that the inheritance is already yours, already decreed, already on its way to manifestation. And the moment you accept this reality with full feeling conviction, the entire mechanism of the subconscious mind engages in bringing it forth into tangible form. There was a woman I shall call Margaret, who found herself widowed at the age of 52 with virtually nothing to her name. Her husband had handled all financial matters, and upon his passing, she discovered that the security she had assumed was there had never existed. The house was mortgaged beyond its value. The savings were depleted. The debts were substantial. Margaret had never worked outside the home and possessed no obvious skills that the marketplace seemed to value. By every measure of the logical mind, her situation was desperate. But Margaret had learned long ago a principle that now became her salvation. She knew that the infinite source of all supply was not dependent on circumstances, not limited by market conditions, not restricted by age or experience or any other human measurement. She knew that the same power that had sustained her through every trial of her life was more than capable of sustaining her through this one. And so, instead of collapsing into fear and despair, Margaret began a practice of profound inner work. Each night before sleep, she would compose herself into a state of perfect calm and speak directly to her subconscious mind with absolute conviction. She would say, "Infinite intelligence within me knows exactly how to bring forth my perfect supply. I am now guided to my right place, my right work, my right prosperity. Everything I need flows to me through channels both known and unknown. I trust completely, and I rest in the assurance of perfect provision." She felt these words as she spoke them. She did not merely recite them. She entered into them. She became them. And then she released them to the depths of her being and fell asleep in perfect peace. Within a week, an idea arose in Margaret's mind that seemed almost absurd. She had always possessed a gift for creating beautiful arrangements from the flowers in her garden. Friends had often commented that she should sell them. She had always dismissed the thought as impractical. But now, the idea returned with unusual persistence. She could not shake it. It followed her through her days. It whispered to her in quiet moments. And finally, she recognized it for what it was, guidance from the infinite intelligence she had invoked. Margaret began creating arrangements and offering them to a local tea shop. The owner loved them and asked for a regular supply. Word spread. A small flower boutique reached out. Then another. Within 2 years, Margaret had established a thriving business that not only paid all her debts but provided her with a comfortable income and a sense of purpose she had never known. She often said afterward that her greatest breakthrough was not the money, though that was certainly welcome. Her greatest breakthrough was the discovery that she had never been dependent on any external condition for her supply. She was always, and had always been, connected to an infinite source that could never be depleted, never be diminished, never be taken from her by any circumstance. She had only needed to recognize this truth and accept it with full conviction. This is the breakthrough that awaits you as well, beloved listener. It is not merely a change in your bank account, though that may certainly come. It is a change in your fundamental relationship with abundance itself. It is the realization that you have never been separate from your good, that the distance between you and your prosperity has never been measured in miles or years or circumstances, but only in belief. The moment the belief shifts, the distance collapses. The moment the inner state aligns with the outer desire, the desire has no choice but to manifest. But let us speak now of the technique itself, the practical method by which these transformations are accomplished. For while the principle is simple, its application requires understanding and consistent practice. The subconscious mind is most impressionable in 2 specific states, the moments just before sleep and the moments just after waking. In these transitional periods, the critical factor of the conscious mind relaxes its guard, and suggestions can pass directly into the deeper levels of awareness where they take root and grow into manifestation. The practice begins with clarity. You must know what you desire. Not in vague, general terms, but in specific, definite terms. Do not say you wish to be more prosperous. Decide exactly what prosperity means to you. See the number. Feel the lifestyle. Know the circumstances that would cause you to say, "This is it. This is what I sought." The subconscious mind works with patterns, with images, with feeling states. Give it clear material to work with. Once clarity is established, compose yourself for sleep in a state of physical relaxation and mental calm. Let the concerns of the day fall away. Let the anxieties of tomorrow release their grip. Enter into a state of peaceful receptivity. And then, in this quiet space, construct a simple scene that would naturally follow the fulfillment of your desire. If your desire is financial freedom, perhaps you see yourself reviewing a bank statement that shows more than enough. Perhaps you feel the sensation of paying every bill with ease and having abundant funds remaining. Perhaps you hear the voice of a trusted friend congratulating you on your success. Make the scene specific. Make it sensory. Make it personal to you. Now, here is the crucial element. Do not observe this scene as a future event. Do not see it as something you hope will happen. Enter into it as present reality. Feel yourself within the scene, not watching it from outside. Experience the emotions you would naturally feel if this were happening right now. Let these emotions flood your being: relief, gratitude, satisfaction, joy, peace, confidence, whatever would naturally arise from the fulfillment of this desire. Dwell in this feeling. Let it permeate every cell of your body. Let it become your reality for these precious moments before sleep. And then, with this feeling still living within you, allow yourself to drift into natural sleep. Do not analyze what you have done. Do not question whether it worked. Do not demand immediate results. Simply release the seed into the fertile soil of the subconscious mind and trust the Lord to operate. The infinite intelligence within you knows exactly how to bring forth the harvest. Your task is to plant the seed with faith and water it with feeling. The task of growth and manifestation belongs to a power far greater than your conscious mind. This practice, performed consistently night after night, begins to reshape the very foundation of your consciousness. The old patterns of lack and limitation begin to lose their hold. New patterns of abundance and possibility take their place. And as the inner world transforms, the outer world must follow. This is not metaphor. This is law, as precise and reliable as any law of physics, as consistent as any principle of mathematics. But there is one obstacle that defeats more seekers than any other, and we must address it directly. That obstacle is impatience. The conscious mind, accustomed to immediate feedback and instant results, grows restless when manifestation does not appear immediately. Days pass. Weeks pass. Perhaps months pass. And the temptation arises to abandon the practice, to conclude that it does not work, to return to the old patterns of effort and struggle that seemed at least to produce some results, however meager. This is the moment of testing. This is the point where faith is proven. And this is precisely where you must hold fast to your vision with even greater conviction. For what the conscious mind does not understand is that manifestation is not a linear process. The subconscious mind works in dimensions beyond time as you know it. It arranges circumstances, influences minds, orchestrates synchronicities, and prepares conditions in ways that your conscious awareness cannot perceive. The seed you have planted is growing even when you cannot see any evidence of growth. The roots are spreading beneath the surface. The transformation is occurring in dimensions invisible to physical sight. Consider the words of the psalmist in Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." This is not a statement of future hope. This is a declaration of present reality. I shall not want does not mean I hope someday not to want. It means want is impossible for one who recognizes the shepherd's presence. And who is this shepherd? It is the infinite intelligence within you, the same power that created you and sustains you and knows your every need before you ask. When you rest in the awareness of this presence, want becomes impossible. Not because you have accumulated enough to prevent want, but because you have aligned with a source that can never be depleted. There was a young man I shall call David, who desired to start a business but had neither capital nor connections. He had only an idea and a burning conviction that he was meant to bring something valuable into the world. Everyone he consulted told him to abandon the dream, to get a safe job, to wait until he had saved enough money, to be realistic. And for a time, David allowed these voices to discourage him. He put his dream on a shelf and resigned himself to the conventional path. But the dream would not leave him. It visited him in his sleep. It called to him in quiet moments. It refused to be dismissed. And one day, David made a decision. He decided to trust the guidance of his inner voice more than the advice of outer voices. He decided to apply the principles he had learned about the power of the subconscious mind. He decided to act as if his success was certain, even before any evidence appeared. Each night, David would enter into a vivid inner experience of his business thriving. He would feel the satisfaction of serving customers who valued his work. He would experience the joy of solving problems and creating solutions. He would see the numbers that represented a healthy, growing enterprise. He would hear the congratulations of those who had once doubted him. And he would fall asleep with these feelings alive within him, trusting that the infinite intelligence within knew exactly how to bring this vision into form. David did not sit idle during the day, waiting for miracles to drop from the sky. He took every action that was available to him. He developed his skills. He refined his idea. He reached out to anyone who might be helpful. He worked with diligence and dedication. But his actions were now informed by a different energy. He no longer worked from fear or desperation. He worked from faith and expectation. And this subtle shift in consciousness made all the difference. Within 6 months, David encountered an investor he had never expected to meet, through a chain of circumstances so unlikely that no logical mind could have planned them. A casual conversation at a coffee shop led to an introduction. The introduction led to a meeting. The meeting led to a partnership. And within 3 years, David's vision had manifested into a thriving enterprise that exceeded even his ambitious imaginations. But again, the outer success was merely the visible evidence of an inner transformation. David had changed his relationship with possibility. He had learned to trust the guidance of his deeper mind. He had discovered that the universe is not hostile to his dreams but profoundly supportive of them. He had awakened to the truth that had always been true. The power to succeed had been within him all along, waiting only to be recognized and released. This same power dwells within you at this very moment. It does not matter what has happened in your past. It does not matter how many times you have failed. It does not matter what the current circumstances appear to be. The creative power of the subconscious mind is not influenced by history. It responds only to present conviction. And in this present moment, you have the capacity to establish a new conviction, to plant a new seed, to begin a new creation that will manifest with the same certainty that the sun rises each morning. The prophet Isaiah spoke words that pierce through the centuries to reach your heart today. In chapter 4-5, verses 2 and 3, we read, "I will go before thee, and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass, and cut in sunder the bars of iron, and I will give thee the treasures of darkness, and hidden riches of secret places." This is the promise that stands before you now. The infinite intelligence goes before you, preparing your way. The obstacles that seem insurmountable are being addressed by a power that knows no limitation. The treasures that have been hidden from your sight are being revealed. The riches that have dwelt in secret places are being brought forth into the light of your experience. But you must claim this promise with faith. You must accept it with conviction. You must receive it with the certainty of a child who reaches up to take the gift from a loving parent, never doubting for a moment that the gift is truly being given. This is the faith that moves mountains. This is the conviction that transforms lives. This is the assurance that turns dreams into reality. As this first portion of our teaching draws toward its close, I want you to consider something carefully. The breakthrough you have been seeking is not a distant event on a far horizon. It is not something that belongs to a future moment that may or may not arrive. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. In truth, it is closer than your own breath. For the breakthrough exists first in consciousness before it appears in circumstances. And consciousness is not somewhere out there. It is here, within you, in this very moment. The only distance between you and your fulfilled desire is the distance between your current belief and the belief that would make manifestation inevitable. And that distance can collapse in an instant when understanding dawns and faith ignites. You do not need years of preparation. You do not need special circumstances. You do not need the approval or assistance of any external power. You need only the recognition that the kingdom of heaven, the realm of all possibility, is within you. It has always been within you. It will always be within you. And when you enter that kingdom with faith and claim your inheritance with conviction, no power in heaven or on earth can deny you your good. Rest in this truth tonight. Let it sink deep into your consciousness. Let it become the foundation upon which all your future experience is built. For when you truly know, with an inner knowing that requires no external proof, that your breakthrough is not only possible but inevitable, that it is not only coming but has already arrived in the realm of mind where all creation begins, then you will have stepped into a new life. And that new life will unfold before you with a grace and ease that will confirm everything you have heard in these words. The power is within you. The wisdom is within you. The answer is within you. And the breakthrough, beloved listener, is closer than you have ever dared to believe. Let us continue now with deeper understanding, for there are dimensions of this truth that must be explored if you are to fully claim the breakthrough that awaits you. We have spoken of the power of belief, the technique of pre-sleep impression, and the necessity of feeling in manifestation. But there remains a principle that many overlook, and its neglect causes countless sincere seekers to struggle far longer than necessary. This principle is the law of non-resistance. When you resist something, you give it power. When you fight against conditions, you strengthen their hold upon your experience. When you pour emotional energy into opposing what you do not want, you are unwittingly feeding the very thing you seek to eliminate. This is not mere philosophy. This is the operation of spiritual law as exact as any principle in nature. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between attention given in love and attention given in fear. It responds to the intensity of focus, the depth of feeling, the consistency of thought. And when you think constantly about what you lack, even if you think about it with the intention of overcoming it, you are impressing the pattern of lack ever more deeply into your consciousness. Consider the words of the Master in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 39, "Resist not evil." This instruction has been misunderstood for centuries. It does not mean passively accepting injustice or allowing yourself to be harmed. It means something far more profound. It means that the way to overcome negative conditions is not through opposition but through substitution. You do not eliminate darkness by fighting it. You eliminate darkness by introducing light. You do not overcome poverty by struggling against it. You overcome poverty by establishing wealth consciousness. You do not defeat illness by battling disease. You restore health by embodying wellness. This shift in approach transforms everything. Instead of waking each morning to continue a war against your circumstances, you wake each morning to cultivate the consciousness that will naturally produce different circumstances. Instead of exhausting yourself in combat with conditions, you invest your energy in creating new inner conditions that must manifest as new outer realities. The effort is redirected from resistance to creation, from fighting to building, from opposition to affirmation. There was a woman I shall call Eleanor, who spent years in bitter resistance to her financial situation. She resented her job. She resented her income. She resented the bills that arrived each month demanding more than she could comfortably pay. Every day was a battle, and every night she fell into exhausted sleep with the consciousness of struggle still dominating her mind. Her affirmations were tinged with desperation. Her prayers were flavored with complaint. Her visualizations were undermined by the feeling of fighting against an enemy that seemed always to have the upper hand. Then Eleanor encountered a teaching that changed her approach entirely. She learned that her resistance was actually perpetuating the very conditions she sought to escape. She learned that every moment spent in resentment of her circumstances was a moment of impressing those circumstances more deeply into her subconscious mind. And she learned that the path to freedom was not through more intense fighting but through complete release. Eleanor began a practice that felt counterintuitive at first. Instead of resisting her current situation, she began to accept it without emotional charge. Not to resign herself to it permanently, but to remove the resistance that was feeding it. She would say to herself, I accept where I am now without judgment. I release all resentment about my present circumstances. I am at peace with this moment, even as I move towards something greater. This acceptance was not defeat. It was strategic release. It was the letting go of the very energy that had been sustaining her limitations. From this place of non-resistance, Eleanor then began to build a new consciousness. Without the constant drain of fighting, she had energy available for creation. She could focus on what she wanted rather than constantly pushing against what she did not want. She could feel the reality of abundance without the static interference of resentment. She could plant seeds in fertile soil rather than in ground poisoned by bitterness. The transformation that followed was remarkable not for its speed but for its ease. Opportunities began to appear that had somehow always existed but that Eleanor had been unable to see through the fog of her resistance. Relationships shifted in ways that opened new doors. Her work improved, not because she was trying harder but because she was no longer sabotaging herself with negative energy. Within 2 years, her entire financial landscape had transformed, and she often reflected that the outer change, while wonderful, was not as significant as the inner peace that had made it possible. This is the secret that few understand. Non-resistance is not weakness. It is supreme strength. It is the recognition that you are not a victim of circumstances who must fight for survival, but a creator of circumstances who need only align consciousness with desire to see manifestation follow as naturally as day follows night. When you release resistance, you stop feeding the old pattern. When you stop feeding the old pattern, it begins to wither. And when you simultaneously begin feeding a new pattern with positive emotion and vivid imagination, the new pattern grows until it dominates consciousness and manifests as the conditions of your life. Let us speak now of another dimension of this teaching that is essential for complete understanding. We have discussed the technique of pre-sleep impression, but the principle extends far beyond the moments before sleep. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every image you entertain is an instruction to the subconscious mind. You are not merely programming your deeper mind during specific practice sessions. You are programming it continuously, with every moment of consciousness. This is why true transformation requires more than technique. It requires vigilance. It requires a commitment to monitoring your mental atmosphere throughout the day. It requires catching yourself when you begin to dwell in thoughts of lack and consciously redirecting your attention toward thoughts of abundance. It requires noticing when fear begins to rise and deliberately cultivating faith in its place. It requires becoming the guardian of your own consciousness, the protector of your own inner garden. The scripture instructs us in Philippians, chapter 4, verse 8, Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. This is not merely moral instruction. This is practical guidance for the science of mind. When you fill your consciousness with thoughts of truth, virtue, beauty, and abundance, you are providing the subconscious mind with material from which to construct your experience. When you allow consciousness to be filled with thoughts of fear, lack, limitation, and doubt, you are providing the subconscious mind with material from which to construct a very different experience. You are always creating. There is no neutral moment. There is no time when consciousness is not active, not impressing, not building. The question is never whether you are creating but what you are creating. And this recognition places both tremendous responsibility and tremendous power in your hands. You cannot escape the creative nature of mind. You can only direct it consciously or allow it to be directed by default, by the random thoughts and habitual patterns that have accumulated through years of unconscious living. The one who masters this understanding becomes deliberate in thought. They do not allow the mind to wander randomly through valleys of fear and mountains of hope without awareness. They cultivate specific states of consciousness. They nurture particular feelings. They tend their inner garden with the same care that a master gardener tends prized flowers, pulling weeds before they can take root, watering the seeds of desire, ensuring that the soil of consciousness remains fertile for the growth of their intentions. There was a man I shall call Robert, who worked as a traveling salesman in an industry where success seemed determined by territory, product quality, and factors entirely outside individual control. Most of his colleagues complained constantly about the impossibility of making good money in such a competitive field. They spoke of difficult customers, inferior products, unfair quotas. And their results consistently matched their conversations. Robert observed this pattern and made a decision that his colleagues considered naive. He decided to refuse any conversation or thought that did not support his success. When colleagues gathered to complain, he would excuse himself quietly. When his own mind began to generate thoughts of difficulty, he would consciously redirect toward thoughts of opportunity. Each morning before beginning his rounds, he would spend 15 minutes in quiet meditation, seeing himself successful, feeling the satisfaction of exceeding every goal, imagining the congratulations he would receive, the income he would earn, the life he would provide for his family. His colleagues laughed at first. They called him a dreamer, disconnected from reality. But within 6 months, Robert's results began to separate dramatically from the average. Within 2 years, he had become the top performer in his region. Within 5 years, he had been promoted to a leadership position that his colleagues could only envy. And when they asked him his secret, he would tell them the truth. He had learned to guard his mind. He had learned to refuse thoughts of failure. He had learned to cultivate the consciousness of success until success became inevitable. This is not magic. This is law. The subconscious mind accepts whatever is impressed upon it with feeling and repetition, and then works ceaselessly to bring corresponding conditions into being. It does not question the wisdom of these impressions. It does not evaluate whether they serve your best interests. It simply takes the pattern and creates from it. This is why unconscious living produces such mixed results. The subconscious is receiving contradictory impressions constantly, creating a reality that reflects this internal chaos. But when you become deliberate, when you choose your dominant thoughts and feelings consciously, when you maintain vigilance over your inner state, you give the subconscious clear instructions, and clear instructions produce clear results. Let us turn now to a truth that may be the most important of all, the nature of your connection to infinite intelligence. Throughout this teaching, I have spoken of the subconscious mind as your creative partner, and this is true. But the subconscious mind is not a separate entity living within you. It is your individualized point of contact with the universal mind, the infinite intelligence that created and sustains all that exists. When you impress your desires upon the subconscious, you are not merely programming a personal mental computer. You are communicating with the very source of all creation. This understanding elevates the practice from technique to communion. You are not merely using a psychological trick to improve your circumstances. You are engaging in a sacred partnership with the infinite, a collaboration with the creative power that brought galaxies into being, that sustains every atom in the universe, that knows no limitation and recognizes no impossibility. When you approach your practice with this awareness, the entire experience transforms. You are no longer a small being hoping that your visualizations might somehow attract what you want. You are a conscious expression of infinite intelligence, deliberately directing creative power toward the manifestation of specific intentions. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, verse 32, contains words that should be written upon every heart. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Consider carefully what this reveals. It is not merely permitted that you should receive your good. It is the pleasure of the infinite to give it to you. The universe is not reluctant to bless you. The source is not withholding from you. The kingdom, with all its treasures, is being offered constantly, ceaselessly, without condition. Your task is not to convince a reluctant power to give you what you want. Your task is to remove the barriers of doubt and fear that have prevented you from receiving what has always been offered. This changes everything. You are not begging. You are not bargaining. You are not trying to manipulate an indifferent universe into caring about your concerns. You are simply opening yourself to receive what the infinite is already delighted to give. And this receiving is not passive. It is the active work of adjusting consciousness, clearing resistance, establishing faith, and maintaining the inner state that corresponds to the outer condition you desire. But it is receiving nonetheless, receiving in partnership with a power that wants nothing more than to see you prosper, flourish, and express the fullness of your being. There was a woman I shall call Sarah, who had struggled for years to attract the resources needed for a project she believed would benefit many people. She had written countless proposals, sought numerous investors, applied for every grant she could find. But the money never came. Each rejection deepened her discouragement. Each failed attempt strengthened her belief that the universe was somehow opposed to her mission. Then Sarah heard a teaching that shifted her understanding at the deepest level. She realized that she had been approaching the universe as a reluctant provider who needed to be convinced. She had been presenting proposals as if she were begging for crumbs from an abundant table. She had been operating from a consciousness of need and desperation, and this consciousness had been perfectly reflected in her results. Sarah decided to change her approach entirely. Instead of focusing on what she needed and did not have, she began to contemplate the infinite abundance of the universal source. She would spend time each day simply appreciating the limitless prosperity that surrounded her, the wealth of nature, the abundance of life, the infinite creative power that was expressing itself in countless forms every moment. She would let this awareness fill her until she felt genuinely wealthy, not in the sense of having accumulated money, but in the sense of being connected to a source that could never be depleted. From this state of consciousness, Sarah then began to hold her vision of the funded project, but now without desperation. She saw it fulfilled not because she had finally convinced someone to help her, but because she was partnered with an infinite power that delighted in bringing good things into manifestation. She felt the project as already existing in the realm of mind, awaiting only the natural process of manifestation to appear in physical form. And she released all attachment to how or when this manifestation would occur, trusting completely that what was already true in consciousness must eventually become true in experience. Within 4 months, the resources appeared through channels Sarah could never have anticipated. A foundation she had never heard of reached out to her based on a recommendation from someone she had met briefly years before. An investor who had initially declined reconsidered and offered not just funding but partnership. Unexpected inheritances, surprise gifts, and unforeseen opportunities all converged until the project was fully resourced with abundance to spare. Sarah had learned the secret that changes everything. When you stop trying to convince a reluctant universe and start receiving from an abundant one, the gates of provision swing wide open. Let us speak now of persistence, for this principle must be clearly understood if you are to navigate the path between desire and manifestation successfully. You will not always see immediate results. There will be periods when your practice seems to produce nothing visible. There will be moments when doubt whispers that nothing is happening, that the law is not working, that you are wasting your time. These moments are not evidence of failure. They are tests of faith. And how you respond to them determines everything. The scripture tells us in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 7, "Ask, and it shall be given you, seek, and ye shall find, knock, and it shall be opened unto you." Notice the certainty of this promise. Not ask and it might be given. Not seek and you may possibly find. Not knock and perhaps something will happen. The promise is absolute because it reflects the absolute nature of the law. Ask, and it shall be given. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened. There is no exception clause. There is no limitation. There is only the unconditional promise that corresponds to the unconditional operation of spiritual law. But notice also that the promise does not specify timing. It does not say ask and you shall receive immediately. It does not say seek and you shall find within 30 days. The manifestation will come. This is certain. But the timing remains in the hands of infinite intelligence, which orchestrates not just your individual good but the good of all, which coordinates not just one desire but countless desires, which weaves together circumstances, influences, and opportunities in patterns far too complex for the conscious mind to comprehend. Your task during the waiting period is to remain faithful to your vision. Hold the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Maintain the inner state that corresponds to your desire. Refuse to let doubt poison the seed you have planted. Trust that the process is working even when you cannot see evidence. Know that beneath the surface, roots are spreading, conditions are being arranged, and the manifestation is being prepared with a perfection that your conscious mind could never achieve. There was an elderly gentleman I shall call Frederick, who had spent decades in a modest career, never earning more than enough to meet basic needs. In his 60s, Frederick discovered the principles of subconscious mind science and began applying them to his financial situation. He visualized abundance. He felt prosperity. He impressed his subconscious mind each night with images of wealth and security. But months passed, and his situation remained unchanged. Many would have given up. Many would have concluded that they were too old, that the law did not work for them, that it was too late to change lifelong patterns. But Frederick persisted. He continued his nightly practice with unwavering faith. He refused to judge by appearances. He maintained his inner conviction regardless of outer evidence. And he told anyone who asked that he was simply giving the law time to work, trusting completely that what he was impressing on his subconscious mind must eventually manifest in his experience. In his 68th year, Frederick received notification that a distant relative he had never known had passed away and left him a substantial inheritance. The amount was more than Frederick had earned in his entire career. His colleagues were astonished at what they called his incredible luck. But Frederick understood that luck had nothing to do with it. He had planted a seed and waited with faith until the harvest came. The timing had not been his to control, but the result had been certain from the moment he had accepted it in consciousness. This story illustrates something crucial about the operation of the law. The channels through which your good comes are not limited by your imagination. You may visualize one path to prosperity while the infinite intelligence knows of 1,000 paths you have never considered. You may expect your good to come through your job while the universe is preparing to bring it through an inheritance, an investment, an opportunity, a gift, or a channel so unexpected that you could never have anticipated it. Your task is to hold the vision and the feeling, not to specify the channel. Let the infinite find the way. It always knows paths that the conscious mind cannot see. Let us now address a question that arises in many minds: what role does action play in this process? If the subconscious mind brings manifestation, if the infinite intelligence arranges circumstances, what need is there for personal effort? This question reveals a misunderstanding that must be corrected. Action and consciousness are not opposites. They are partners. The consciousness creates the pattern. The action participates in its manifestation. When you have established a clear conviction in your subconscious mind, you will find yourself naturally moved to take certain actions. Ideas will arise. Impulses will prompt you. Guidance will come in the form of inner urges that direct you toward specific steps. This is not forced effort born of anxiety. This is inspired action born of alignment. The difference between struggling effort and inspired action is the consciousness behind it. Struggling effort comes from a consciousness of lack, from the belief that you must force results through sheer willpower because the universe is not supporting you. Inspired action comes from a consciousness of abundance, from the certainty that you are cooperating with a power that is already bringing your good into manifestation. The outer movements may look similar, but the inner state is entirely different, and this inner state determines the quality and effectiveness of the action. When you align consciousness with desire, the actions you are moved to take become remarkably effective. You say the right thing to the right person at the right time. You make decisions that seem to have almost supernatural precision. You find yourself in places and situations that perfectly support your intentions, not through careful planning but through what might be called divine orchestration. You are being guided, and your actions become expressions of this guidance rather than desperate attempts to force outcomes that consciousness has not yet accepted. This is why the inner work must come first. Without the inner alignment, outer actions tend to be ineffective or even counterproductive. With the inner alignment, outer actions become channels through which the already established good can flow into physical manifestation. You do not act in order to create results. You act to participate in results that have already been created in consciousness. As we approach the conclusion of this teaching, I want to speak directly to the deepest part of your being, to that place within you that has perhaps waited a lifetime to hear these words. You have been created for abundance. You have been designed for prosperity. You have been intended for success, fulfillment, and the complete expression of every beautiful desire that has ever arisen in your heart. Nothing in your past disqualifies you from this inheritance. No mistake you have made is sufficient to cancel the love that the infinite holds for you. No limitation you have experienced defines the boundaries of what is possible for your future. You are a fresh creation in every moment, and in this moment, right now, you have the power to begin again, to plant new seeds, to establish new convictions, to set in motion the manifestation of everything you have ever wanted and everything you have not yet dared to want. The breakthrough you have been seeking is not somewhere out there, waiting to be found. It is here, within you, waiting to be claimed. It is in the next thought you choose to think. It is in the next feeling you allow yourself to feel. It is in the vision you hold tonight as you drift into sleep. It is in the faith you maintain tomorrow when doubt whispers its familiar lies. It is in your willingness to persist, to trust, to believe without evidence, to expect without proof, to know without knowing how you know. Philippians chapter 4, verse 19 assures us, "But my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory." Not according to your merit. Not according to your efforts. Not according to economic conditions or market circumstances or any other external factor. According to his riches in glory, which are limitless, inexhaustible, eternal. This is the source from which your supply flows. This is the fountain that never runs dry. This is the treasury that contains all you could ever need and more than you could ever imagine. Let this truth settle into the deepest chambers of your heart. Let it become the foundation upon which you build every thought, every expectation, every vision of your future. You are not struggling for scraps at the edge of scarcity. You are heir to infinite abundance, and the only thing standing between you and the full experience of this inheritance is your own acceptance of its reality. Accept it now. Not tomorrow. Not when circumstances improve. Not when you feel more worthy. Now, in this moment, with all your doubts still circling, with all your fears still present, with all your history still behind you. Accept it now because now is the only moment when acceptance is possible. The past is gone. The future has not arrived. Only now exists, and in this now, you have the power to say yes to everything the infinite is offering you. This teaching has been offered to you for educational and inspirational purposes, as an original expression of principles that have transformed countless lives throughout history. The concepts shared represent the general philosophy of subconscious mind science, presented in new language and illustrated with fresh examples created specifically for your benefit. As you apply these principles in your own life, use personal judgment, take inspired action, and trust the guidance that arises from your own connection to infinite intelligence. You possess within you, at this very moment, everything you need to experience the breakthrough you seek. The power is yours. The wisdom is yours. The connection to infinite intelligence is yours. Nothing has been withheld. Nothing is being withheld. The gates of abundance stand open before you, and the only question that remains is whether you will walk through them. I say to you with complete conviction, with absolute faith, with the certainty that comes from understanding eternal law, your breakthrough is closer than you think. It is not coming someday. It is here. It exists in consciousness, which is the only place where anything truly exists before it becomes visible. Accept it. Claim it. Feel it. Know it. Live from it. And watch as your entire world transforms to match the glory of what you have accepted within. Go now with the blessing of infinite intelligence upon you. Go with the knowledge that you are loved beyond measure, supported beyond your knowing, and destined for an abundance that exceeds your wildest dreams. Go with faith, with expectation, with the quiet confidence of one who knows that what has been planted must surely grow, what has been believed must surely appear, and what has been accepted in the secret place of consciousness must surely manifest in the visible realm of experience. Your breakthrough is here. Receive it now. And so it is.